Hello and welcome to the 7-day spring cleaning challenge. Thank you so much for being here and investing your time and energy into this. The goal really is to not only create more space and clarity at home, but also in your minds as well. So, thank you so much for being here. My name is Sarah. Feel free to ask me any questions. Today is the first day, and we are going to be talking about negative self talk. So, really, this whole practice starts from the inside out. And so, when we declutter our minds, we are able to have more clarity and live a more intentional life. And as moms, we have so much on the go. We have huge to-do lists and decision fatigue and all of these responsibilities, and we are managing it, most of the childcare responsibilities and the home responsibilities, and it is overwhelming, and it can lead to burnout and depression. And I do not want that. I do not want you all operating on overdrive on a daily basis. It's far too heavy. So, what we want to do is really to break the cycle. And, I think we are the first generation of women who, as girls, were taught we can be anything we want to be. And as amazing as that is, we felt, I think, the expectation that we had to do it all, that we should have amazing careers and climb the corporate ladder and be a hashtag boss lady, um, as well as be a Pinterest worthy mom and, all of this sort of perfectionist, people pleasing tendencies. And so we really want to break that cycle now so that we aren't teaching our children that they need to do all of these things as well. We've done an amazing job of maintaining it, but it can lead again to burnout and depression and being sick. And we don't want that for ourselves or for the generations ahead of us. And it's time to really raise our voices and say we need more support or we need more systems in place to allow us to have careers, but to also have maintainable lives and more space for ourselves so that we can prioritize our mental health and our physical well-being. So we are going to look at, breaking this cycle and have a better understanding of where these limiting beliefs, have come from that have led us to this place in the homework that I've provided. So feel free to do that after this talk. And then there also is a journal prompt that will help you kind of and inspire you to live out your wildest dreams. So all of this kind of works together. And so let's first talk about that inner voice. So I will go to this next slide here. Perfect. We were taught that we could be everything and do everything for everybody, and it's just not that realistic. And we can't do it all. So, what we need to understand is where this inner critic that tells us we have to be everything and do everything for everybody comes from. And a lot of it is that negative self-talk in our heads. And it really is holding us back. And, a lot of that negative self-talk sounds like you're not enough. So you're not pretty enough, or you're not smart enough, or you're not rich enough, thin enough, creative enough, lucky enough, all of these things that our brains have been taught, our brains that have been wired that way. And they're wired that way to keep us safe. And as great as that is for keeping us safe, it also holds us back because we don't like to experience that fear. And so we stop taking chances a lot of times when we get older because that negative self-talk becomes louder and louder. And then we create excuses for why we're too old or why we don't need something that we want. We say to ourselves, oh, you're just being selfish. And we all experience negative self-talk, but there is a difference between I want to be more present with my kids and I've been so lazy lately. I'm such a crappy mom. My kids deserve better. And so, really understanding where that voice is coming from and whose voice it is. Is it your voice or is it someone else's voice that when you were a child, they taught you these things and it's become your own inner voice? So, really understanding that, because also we want to change the narrative and we don't want to teach our kids these same things. So if you're finding that that inner voice is really negative and cutting you down a lot, we want to change that narrative, because it's hard to experience a positive life if we're having negative thoughts. And one thing that we can do to help that, if you are experiencing it, is to acknowledge those thoughts first, so that we can reframe them and change the pattern and change the wiring of our brains. And one thing you don't want to do is just to resist the thoughts. So acknowledging these thoughts is great, but what you resist, you will persist in life. So when something negative pops up in your head, instead acknowledge it, become aware of it. You can almost feel grateful for being made aware that you're experiencing a negative thought, so that you can change it and reframe it for the future. One thing that I've been using lately that has been working is when a negative thought pops into your head, is to say to yourself, abracadabra. It's almost like poof, it disappears. And then it provides you space and opportunity to create a more positive thought instead. And you can teach your kids this too. So if they're young and maybe won't understand like that inner dialogue, but say something negative about themselves, like, oh, I can't do it, then you can teach them to say abracadabra, poof, and then to reframe how they said that. So instead of I can't do it, you can teach them to say abracadabra, poof, and then teach them what to say instead. So you are learning, it takes time, you're doing a great job, something like that. So the word abracadabra actually means I create as I speak. So it's an Aramaic phrase, and it really is true. Words have power. So when you say something negative about yourself, it really changes how you live your life and how you parent and how you teach your kids how to think about themselves as well. Um, so, what we want to do is, if these negative thoughts come into our head, we can use this as a way to remember what to do. So, the first four letters in abracadabra are ABRA. And so, what that stands for is acknowledge, breathe, release, and align. So, first, when a negative thought pops into your head, you acknowledge it by saying abracadabra. Then you take a deep breath so that you're, giving yourself space to reframe it. And then you release that negative thought. So you exhale and you release that limitation that you just put on yourself. And maybe in that moment, you will realize that it's not you saying that. Maybe it was a parent that taught you something about yourself, or said something negative. Maybe it was a teacher, whoever. But release that limitation. And lastly, align yourself with what you do want. So let's say you say to yourself, I'm not creative. I wish I was more creative, or I want to be more creative. Then say abracadabra, release it. And then instead, if you do truly want to be more creative, then you can say to yourself, I am creative. I can learn anything. I can be creative with my kids. So just reframing it from I'm not to I am. And when we do that, then we're just like changing the rewiring in our brain from something that we're lacking to something that we are. So I am creative means that you truly believe it, and then you can work towards doing that. So you are living in that space of I am. So once we become more aware of that negative self talk and when it comes up, we can really use it as clues to discover more about our limiting beliefs. And we discuss that in the exercise that I've provided. And it helps us to be able to move past those limiting beliefs. So ask yourself these questions. Is the negative self talk in my head me? Is it my voice? Is it someone like a parent who said these things either about themselves when I was a child that I believed to be true? Or was it said directly to me? And then you can ask yourself, at what age did I start hearing these voices and start to believe that they were true? And then recognize, what did I maybe need at that time that I wasn't getting? So, what can you offer your inner child now to comfort them, to comfort her? And how can I change this negative self talk so that this pattern is not repeated? Because the way we talk to ourselves becomes the way that our children talk to themselves and believe what they believe in themselves. So, what we can do is think of a situation right now that you're feeling stuck in. So, something that's taking up space in your mind. So, first, you acknowledge it, release it. And then, what you want to do is name those feelings around the situation and write them down. So, look at these feelings and identify what they are trying to tell you that you need. Say, you're feeling frustrated with a work situation, and the feelings you wrote down were frustrated, overwhelmed, lonely, and appreciative. What are those feelings telling you that you need? Do you need support, help, guidance? Focus on the solution and ask yourself how you can get what you need. Your feelings can tell you a lot about what you need. If you live in your head a lot like me and have had a hard time trusting your intuition, instead trust your feelings. Your feelings are your inner voice. If you connect with your feelings, then you have a better understanding of what your inner voice is trying to tell you. So over the next week, I want you to try these things out. Say abracadabra to yourself to when something negative comes up. And then if you're feeling overwhelmed about something and you're starting to, play things over in your head a lot and starting to feel really negative about them, try understanding your feelings better so that you can really connect to your intuition and find solutions to that. And also make sure that you're asking for support and really connecting to others as well, which can help, offload some of these negative feelings. There's a few more things that you can also do. So, what has really helped me is meditation and journaling. At first, I didn't love meditation because I thought that it had to be quiet, that, you had to shut off your thinking. And then I was introduced to Insight Timer, which really, really helped me. So, it's guided meditation. So, you can look up anything. So if you feel like you want to learn more about your inner voice, then you can look up guided meditations about inner voice, and you're provided with a ton of different guided meditations, all different lengths that you can do that will help you work through them. If you're feeling overwhelmed or like you are lacking support, you can look up guided meditations that will help with those different circumstances so that you can get that out of your mind and release that out so that you can start thinking more positively. And if you're not into downloading another app, I get it. You can also use YouTube and look up the same sort of things. There's a ton of guided meditations on YouTube. Another thing that I really found helpful was journaling, just getting my thoughts on paper. And what you can do is write down things that have been taking up space in your mind, and then write it all down. Just like, don't even think about it. Don't judge yourself about what you're writing, and then crumple it up or burn it. And that is an amazing way to release some of that negative self-talk in your head. So those are a few things that I've tried that have been super, super helpful for me. And it can help to rewire your brain so you no longer believe these things to be true. You feel lighter, you feel less overwhelmed by the world. And then you start to see yourself as your biggest cheerleader. So when you feel stuck and you're not connected, um, you just don't feel connected to yourself, really try to reframe it, write down your feelings, write down what you need, ask for support, give yourself time and space to connect to yourself. And then let me know what you think, if you've been finding it helpful, those sorts of things. And also remember to do the journal prompt and the homework. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or connect on Instagram at Mommy Wellness Co. And I would be happy to answer any questions you have or anything that you found interesting or things that have worked for you that could maybe be helpful for other people. So tomorrow we'll be moving on to more of our daily routine and how to carve out space in your day to be present, find peace and inspiration, and to prioritize your needs. So feel free to come back tomorrow. I will send out another video. And thank you so much for your time and your energy today. Thank you.